Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Prolonged Fast podcast. I have to apologize for the horrible music that you've been inflicted with. However, now we are back. This is the
Hello.
second episode of the Prolonged Fast podcast. Today,
uh,
we are going to be talking about birth rates.
Birth rate.
birth rates and such, especially with the modern subject, how it's been declining recently in recent
Mm.
years, and how it basically, well, it could mean the end of our
No,
guess
it shouldn't.
civilization in a way. I'll
Victor.
explain why, Ioannis.
Here we have the two different opposing ideas already. Ioannis here, not so worried. Victor seems
I'm
to
not
have some
worried.
issues. So, what exactly are we talking about? Let's just quickly cover the topic here. Birth rates or fertility rates, depending on who you ask, where you ask, are the average amount of children a woman has in a lifetime within a country. These vary. Usually, the ideal number, or at the very least, the sort of ideal minimum, is 2.1, which is just about enough to maintain the population if you don't have any immigration at all. Because, well, two, because every child is made with two people. I'm not going to explain how. Ask your parents about that one. And then the point one, because people die unnaturally, kids die, whatever. So you need a bit extra, right? But that doesn't account for things like immigration, mass movements of people, all these things smooth things out. So even if you don't have 2.1% birth rate, your population can still be growing.
Yeah,
Now, let's take it to Victor, and we're going to see what the problems of this low birth rate, as is in developing countries, might be.
yeah. Even in not developing countries, just developed countries in general. Um, Almost actually no, it's more in the developed countries than developing countries because they're not as well educated in developing countries, so they just like pump out babies like crazy.
Yes,
With
sorry,
a
it's
very
late. I think I got my terms mixed up. Developed, developing.
now
Just
you messed
assume
up
that
the
I'm
term.
saying
Developed.
the right thing.
Okay. I don't think developed and developing are correct classification. First of all, yeah, I'm
Should
pretty
we
sure that's
explain
been
what
proven.
they are?
I'm pretty sure that's been proven wrong. Uh,
Or
Developed and
I,
developing
please
I
explain.
think.
is not really a way
Um,
to classify things anymore.
well, okay, let's put it this way. Okay, just to explain to the viewers, um, countries that are economically per person, whatever, like relatively poor, are more likely to have quickly growing populations,
Right.
because A, being poor means that you have a lot of time doing not much except your wife, and that ends in pregnancies. I'm not going to explain how. You can ask your parents about that one. Um,
Again.
and that also, in these environments, there's a lot of rural agriculture, so you need kids on the farms, in the fields, working. So these kinds of things essentially end up in societies where the child is expected to pay sort of for the retirement of the adults, even if they're not ever actually going to
Yeah.
properly retire. They won't be able to
In
work as much, so the children will need to provide for them because these countries don't have proper social welfare systems.
yeah,
Yeah.
in modern states, there isn't
Children is like a.
as
Oh,
much
sorry.
of a motivation, right? There's a lot of people
Yeah,
who, first of all, you don't need them on the field. You're not on a field usually in a more developed country, as well
You're
as
normally doing a more prestigious job, I guess,
yeah, as
doing
well
like
as a lot of people
guess
these
engineer
days
and
don't
so on.
necessarily want many kids. Like it's not a desire anymore.
Yeah,
And
mainly because of the cost of,
yeah,
I
it's
guess, the
getting more
child in
expensive.
general. Especially in like countries such as like the US where you have to pay like ridiculous. I don't remember how much it is, but I'm pretty sure it's in the thousands to even like give birth to a child.
yeah.
And
Obviously,
that's
that
not
depends on like your
And then
insurance or whatever,
then
but
yeah,
yeah,
insurance,
not
but
the
like
real
keep
country.
in mind.
and then access to contraceptives is much more prominent in developed
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah, and and when you talk about these things, it's very easy to kind of get lost in the language of, age group, how to get the population growing more. We have to also recognize that
I feel like
a lot of the
age
reasons
groups are
why
important.
people aren't having kids, um, is because their lives are better. Like women having reproductive rights and condoms being available, these kinds of things, sex ed being something that's taught like relatively young so that you don't get accidental pregnancies early in life. These are essentially like objectively good things.
Objectively, yeah.
So like they have consequences that might end up being bad, but that's sort of like saying that modern medicine leads to like pollution because of the way that we make drugs. It's like, okay, maybe that's a factor, but because of this, lives have improved immeasurably. However, there is still a fair point in saying that some of these things aren't just consequences of better lives. Some of these things are consequences of specific policies that governments do or don't take that then lead to people either not being able to afford or maybe never really wanting children in the first place.
Yeah, I would say so as well, in that
Right.
But,
sense.
So
there's two types of policies.
there's like
Policies that
a
actually encourage kids, and then like one child policy,
yeah.
China.
which is yeah, that kind of stuff is very rare. But when it happens,
It's not
And
it's
really good for
interesting.
the, I guess, population. Let's
and
just
of
say that.
course, these dropping birth rates will lead to population declines, right? A lot
Hmm.
of developed countries
Well,
are
yeah.
already declining in population. I mean, for example, I
Italy,
don't know,
Greece,
Greece, yeah.
Finland.
Well, usually it's declining growth rate, not actual like loss
No,
of population.
Yeah,
I think Japan is
yeah.
losing population,
And I
like
have
China
yeah,
is.
because
pulled up an estimate of world population growth. And the thing is, a lot of people, scientists say we will peak at 10 billion people. So we still have a long way to go.
yeah, studies shown is that isn't around like 10 to 11 billion. Yeah, then it
10.4
peaks.
billion in 2066, which is
Now,
not a
obviously,
long time
take
away.
take these studies with a massive
Yeah,
grain of salt because, like
Yeah,
all sort of
they're
predictive
it's
estimates.
ideas,
only
you know,
estimates. Yeah,
yeah. People thought the tanks were going to be like massive battleships that have tracks and they were going to go around the battlefield, and then that didn't happen because that's stupid. So, like, especially with human nature, things are very difficult to predict. But assuming that current trends continue, that would be a result. And I think that brings us to the point of where these things can change and where they can be different. Because if we look at Europe as a sort of like developed country place, it's not necessarily a fair divider. There's places that aren't Europe that are developed that we'll go into, like Japan, and then there are places in Europe that aren't developed, like okay, some of the Balkans. Um, So obviously there's variance there, but for example, France has a pretty good birth rate at about I think 1.83, but then countries like Germany or Finland have it nearer to like 1.5, 1.3, and
yeah.
it's interesting to think. What do you guys do? Do you have any ideas kind of what kind of things in a modern developed economy in a developed country do you think can and should be encouraged to raise birth rates, or is that even a
Increase.
thing that we should be doing?
That's a
Victor,
very
do you want
good
to go first?
question. That's it. Now, yeah, I can go first.
Hmm.
Now you're stepping to the realms of like ethics because if you want to increase the birth rates, of course you need to kind of, you know how China reduces the birth rates by making a law like the one child policy. Then
Hmm.
you kind of have to make something that's the opposite of it to
Whoa, wait
increase
a
it.
minute.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
true child policy. You will
the
have
true child
children.
policy. Well, that's a way of, I guess, one way. But there's probably other ways you can like recommend you give
Yeah,
more. You know how Finland does the baby boxes,
Hmm. Hmm.
where they like give out supplies to like already to the mothers who just gave birth and to like family that was just like just
yeah,
started basically, so they can
Hmm.
not waste as much money and
I
be
feel like
already
yeah.
like the essential supplies.
I
That
think
would be a way to.
I feel like Finland's doing a good job. I think something you could do, except for force people to have children, Victor,
Yeah, I know. It's just like
is to
Yeah,
have
let's say that
benefits.
the
You know,
prolonged fast podcast does not encourage or
yeah.
endorse forced
The
look,
insemination.
everything we say is with a grain of salt.
yeah, there should
Yeah.
be benefits to having a child. I think that's what would
Yeah.
encourage, and a lot of countries already do this. I don't know how much it's affected their birth rates. I haven't looked into it much. Maybe Nicholas knows a thing or two.
Well, as a point, France, which again, the highest birth rate in the EU, I think every mother that gives birth gets like their own personal nurse to like help them with the child for like a couple of months. And there's a lot of like different benefits. So like a huge amount of money is put into pre and postnatal care. And that shows 1.83 is a very high birth rate
Yeah,
for a Western developed country.
actually, I think my sister, who lives in France and actually had a child in France, got a personal nurse who basically advised her what to do and how to kind of take care of a baby's needs.
Yeah.
And I guess it's been working out quite well in a way. And then she, as kind of, I guess, is not evidence, but she does want to have another baby. So
But
that
yeah,
would
I
kind of
think that
support the
having
idea.
a child is a sort of bonus of its own. So really, you need to get rid of the barriers to that. You need to get rid
Yeah.
of sort of negative effects of that. Especially that's why I think in a lot of the Nordic countries and even like further south in Europe, they've been pushing more and more for paternity leave, not just for mothers but also for fathers, so that they can be more involved in the child's life. Better sort of like family leave and more flexibility that employers have to kind of put up with when it comes to birthing, because I think we're getting to a point where the state it needs to be the one to create that opportunity. We're no longer living in a world where it's something that you just kind of have to do or that just happens because there isn't contraceptives. We're living now in a world where people can do everything that they want and not have kids and they can just be fine. So you need to actually kind of make sure that that path is open to people because they're not going to fight to it anymore.
Yeah, because the main reason now why people aren't wanting to have children is because why would they have them? There's just a huge. So well, some people think at least that it's a huge waste of resources and time that they could spend on themselves, improving themselves on their career, job, hobbies, instead of investing most of that time into raising a child. They think which one is better for them in that current situation, and quite a few people choose kind of like the latter. They move
Hmm.
only in the later, I guess, ages, when they become middle age or something along those lines. They might want to have a child, but when they're young, quite a few people nowadays, especially the newer generations, kind of don't want to have children. Uh, so of course, there's many people who do want to have children. They still have this idea. It's not a bad thing, of course. Um, but yeah, I'm just saying there's other people as well that kind of delay this idea or just
Right.
don't want to have them at all.
And Giannis, just before I let you talk,
Yeah.
let's make it very clear. Of course, it is the right of these people. If they don't want to have
Yeah,
kids, you don't have to have. Let's
Yeah.
just make this very clear. This is not like a moral condemnation of people who don't have kids. Oh, damn you! You're letting the birth rate go down. No, that's
no,
completely fine. We're just
yeah.
looking at this as
Don't
a
be like
social
Elon Musk.
issue and what can be or can't be done about it.
We're just looking at the statistics and how the
Yeah,
people might think in that situation.
Yeah.
yeah. Giannis, you had something to add
The thing is, you said that the birth rates in France are like 1.8, right? But the thing is, they have so much more.
about
They
yeah.
have, um, they have these nurses, right? Which a lot of people might say is taking it too far. I don't know. Um, but their birth rate is still under the birth rate that they need to sustain their population. I'm pretty sure, from
Yeah,
according to
it's about
Google.
0.1, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure. Like, yeah. I mean, the French population has been growing basically since forever. But like, yes, if there was no immigration at all, then it would get smaller.
Right.
That
Yeah.
is
There's
true.
immigration.
Yeah, you gotta. We're specifically we're just talking about birth rates, but yeah, there's other
Yeah,
factors
yeah,
that
yeah.
increase the
When you factor
population.
in like, yeah, population growth and birth rates are not
Yeah,
like directly
they're
linked. There are
not.
other things as well.
Yeah, they're not 100% to 100%.
Yeah,
There's other percentages that come into the equation
yeah,
that change the result.
absolutely.
Do you wanted to add any more points, Giannis, to be thing?
Not really. I've kind of
I mean, I, I,
got my
I kind of get
answers,
the point.
my
Like, yeah, like,
questions answered.
is it enough or is it like kind of an for? But I think
Look,
that
I
To
don't
some extent,
think
the birth rate question is really difficult.
I
Like,
don't think it'll ever be catastrophic. That's my thing.
Yeah,
I
that's.
think
I think
yeah,
it
as
might
well.
balance out at some point,
I feel like
like in the
yeah,
future.
it might balance out. Well, I believe that's not our main pressing issue
It's,
that
I know.
humanity
So
is gonna
Earth
go
hmm
is
extinct.
not gonna let itself die. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Humanity
humanity
can
won't
yeah,
go
it
away
doesn't
survive.
stop.
because the
Yeah, yeah,
numbers are a
yeah.
bit
Let's make
lower.
this
There's
very
like
clear.
a few
This
more
idea,
older people.
this idea that like civilization will simply stop existing because currently, in this point in human existence that has been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there's a little bump and then there was a little dip. That doesn't. This is this is that sort of like end of history, like we are sort of like the last generation to ever be, sort of like mentality that's so stupid. No, things that are happening now aren't going to be happening forever. Like the world will change, technology, our societies will grow and develop in different new ways.
Yeah,
We're just as much at the end of history as the ancient Egyptians, you know. Life will go on. Or to quote, Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
yeah, that's
I
true.
don't think
And with
Jurassic Park was the
increased,
first people to say
uh, probably not, but
that.
they're the one who took the copyright.
We'll be giving it to them anyways, yeah, in
Yeah.
case they come a
Uh,
knocking.
Speaking of which, like as technology improves, more like people will live longer and longer lives,
hmm
and I think at some point we're just gonna find like almost eternal life because
Mm,
we might find it's not like we might stay physically eternal. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but there
Yeah, yeah.
could be a way of something happening that a lot
I
most of like population lives forever.
I had this, and like, tell me if I'm crazy, but I had this like really interesting thought one day, which is I'm assuming you're all relatively familiar with Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's
yeah.
sort of like world,
Yeah.
Middle Earth, and like he made the elves right as like kind of the perfect humans, as like the kind
Hmm.
of perfect representation of all about man, um, and he he makes it so that like they can technically have kids, but they don't really do that very often. They live basically forever, and even when they like die in battle, they like go to like Elf Valhalla or whatever. I'm sure that the Tolkien fans are really angry at me for like simplifying the Legendarium, but whatever. We don't have time to go into that. So I feel like in a way that is like he was right. That is kind of like the end state for humans. I think that will probably, maybe not for hundreds or thousands of years, but
Yeah.
eventually I sort of think like that's where we'll be, where things like having kids will be a sort of like, sure, why not? But like we can do that because we have time, we live for so much
Of
longer. We
course, if
can
like
afford to wait.
if no such like extinction event occurs,
Yeah,
and
assuming
kids,
that we don't die out
yeah,
from
Yeah,
some other
but
thing.
by that point, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to be
yeah. By
kind of
that
immune
point, but what if we never?
to most
I'm talking
things.
about we never
I,
get to
I,
that
I
point.
I don't believe in human extinction. I believe like I think the light of civilization could go out. I think we can drop the torch, but I don't think the human species
Yeah,
is gonna,
the
unless like
Okay.
a massive meteorite like hits the earth and like cracks it open like a duck egg. I don't think humanity's going anywhere, I think
like
humans as a species
have
are gonna
we
exist.
have we survived a super volcano eruption? Like, has there been
I
a
don't
super
know.
volcano eruption during the like
It's
existence of humankind, like two hundred
it's
thousand years?
actually really fascinating
I think
how we seem to exist
yeah.
during this like little pocket of not that bad natural disasters
Yeah,
actually.
There's
Like,
people who keep
for like kind of
talking about like
prehistory.
the end is coming.
I mean we
Like
Yeah,
are
yeah.
the volcano is
overdue.
going to explode.
Yeah, we are overdue a super volcano because like
Just put like a cork, like a wine bottle
The
cork
thing is that
on
we
the
yeah
would
volcano
survive
and like
that.
hold it
We
down.
would survive. That's the thing.
we
Oh
would
yeah, we would
because of
survive
Humanity
yeah
would
easily.
we would
survive.
survive because of
Yeah, like
electricity. We have enough
life would
heating. Yeah,
suck for a
Yeah,
while,
but
but we would
we'd be
make it. Like
fine.
we would go on.
a few people would die. Yeah, sure, but
Yeah, like
most of
I'm
us will
sure
live.
there would be like millions of deaths from like the downstream effects of this thing and like the ash clouds and all
Yeah,
that
the
stuff. But I'm
people
like,
in the
the
immediate
people in the
vicinity.
bunkers are gonna make it.
Hey, at least
Like it's gonna be
climate
like
change
fallout
didn't
for a
kill us
while.
off. It was a super volcano, much cooler.
Mm.
Much
I
more
guess that's a way
visible.
to think about it. Yeah.
Much. Oh my god, guys! Epic boom happened.
I mean, that's probably would get the birth rate up a bit, you know. People would
Yeah,
have a lot of
I
time on their hands sitting in
I
the bunkers.
It could have the
I
opposite
guess so.
effect because a lot of people now, I think in a stupid sense, I don't know, I might be offending people here, but they say I don't want to
That's
bring a
fine.
child into this world. What does that mean?
I They do
Ah,
say
What
that. They
like
I think they
this
mean
world?
because
What's up with this world? What's wrong?
I think they're saying that like the current situation of the world is so
The thing
shitty
is,
that they
it's
don't
the best it's
that
ever
they
been. That's
don't
the
want.
thing. Uh,
Yeah, it's the best it's ever been ever because there's 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 almost no slaves across like the global world.
I might have to disagree with that. There's a lot
Disagree.
of human trafficking.
A lot less
There's
slaves.
more
but
than when slavery was
as a
legal.
percentage, no, as a
Really?
percentage
Yeah,
though
in the
of the
U.S.
global
there's more
population.
than when slaves were
Damn.
legal. Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, all U.S. prisoners are slaves, so you
Okay, but like
know,
excluding those,
because
I'm talking
what is
about
it,
human
14th
trafficking
Amendment?
in
Which
kids.
amendment? I
Really?
hold on,
Amendment.
let me see.
It's an amendment.
Next
Whichever
quick
amendment
crazy.
bans
That's
slavery, it says like slavery can be used for criminal punishment. So like it doesn't completely ban it. Let me see. Slavery amendment. Is it the
Um,
but
14th?
but still like um now most people have food.
No,
They have heating. They have
yeah, there's this
water.
13th
really
Amendment.
cool
Okay.
book. I'm gonna be very nerdy right now. You guys
Don't
have
you
heard
dare!
of the
Don't you
book.
dare!
There's this cool
Don't
book
you dare!
uh, called Factfulness.
This book sucks. Don't read
No,
it.
it doesn't suck. It talks about all this, um, how this pessimistic behavior and way of worldview, right? When in fact we're doing well.
We're doing
We're
pretty
not in a
well, yeah.
shit situation like the
We're
news
not in
tries
the
to make
Middle
it.
Ages.
It's not like everybody's
If you're
dying
gonna
around us.
read a book, if you're gonna read a book, you
Yeah.
should read 1984. That's all
Okay.
I'm gonna say
Okay,
about this.
Nicholas. You're addicted
Um,
to
I
1984,
might.
Nicholas.
People reference it constantly, and none of them have read it, and it really annoys me. But whatever. We can have another
Literally
episode where we
1984.
talk about 1984 for 3 hours, and you all shut up, and I do the talking.
No,
Um,
I gotta read the book first. I won't be part of this conversation then.
but um, hold on. Giannis was talking. He said things. Factfulness. Positive attitude. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I've got the string back.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. There's there's a couple things. Um, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we put this? I can empathize with the feeling, like the whole idea of like I don't want to bring a child into this world. I get that. I feel that, but it's also like that is the sort of um point of view or like thinking that I think in many ways leads us into situations like the ones we find ourselves in with things like climate change, with growing wealth inequality. It's because
Yeah.
of this
Right.
attitude.
And I
Okay,
think
let's put it this way: you can't avoid power, right? You can't get around it. You can only make yourself blind to how it works, and then let other people wield it over you by saying like, and it's not this thing specifically, but it's a lot of adjacent sort of opinions that people have when they say things like, "Oh, I don't want to bring kids into this world." They also often have other sort of like kind of they've given up on the world. They're being doomer, quote unquote. Um, and I think that
Depressive, I
these
guess.
people are sort of the problem because often these are
Uh,
the same people who won't vote. They'll say, "Oh,
Viewers,
all the
take this
parties
with a
suck."
grain of salt. He,
Yeah, yeah,
he
like not all of you, but a lot of you. Like the because I think that people who say this, I don't want to bring children into this world, aren't necessarily part of the group I'm describing. But I think that a lot of the people who are part of the group I'm describing do say that. They have that kind of mentality, and they've sort of given up hope on things getting better.
Yeah, but I do agree with you. They're kind of like a stage of depression, you might call it, but it's like
Like
a
like you
not
can't
complete
give up
depression.
it's
Yeah,
pessimism.
because the thing is,
yeah,
yeah,
pessimistic. Yeah,
people at the top, people who like wealthy billionaires, plutocrats, dictators, these people are not giving up. They are ramping it up. They are coming for your privacy. They are coming for your wallet. They are coming for your vote. These people have no interest in slowing it down and thinking, oh, maybe we should just stop. No, 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 no. But we let it happen to ourselves. What, only like 100 years ago, most, like laboring, like citizens of nations in like Europe, for example, were some flavor of well, at least they would have called themselves, socialists, and they had all these labor unions, they had all these aspirations, and then that all just kind of fizzled out. The energy stopped. The media smeared them. They were like, oh well, look at the Soviet Union. Do you want that? And they were like, I guess we don't. And then they sort of gave up. They sat around and said, I guess we can stop here with the welfare state. We can just not do anything while you slowly actually take it away from us with your corruption and lobbying. And I don't know, people just don't realize that like by doing things you can change that. All these
Yeah,
problems, none of them
and
are helped by you giving up on the world.
by doing nothing, you achieve nothing.
Yeah, and these then the same people who are like, I don't vote, everyone sucks. I don't like any. You are the problem. Like you are worse than the people who vote for like bad parties because you know the problem, you understand the problem, and then you sit on your hands and you do nothing, and then you complain anyways. I can't. Those kind of people, man. They really grind my gears.
They grind your gears.
Yeah, they
I
grind my
think,
gears.
yeah, that's true. Back to birth rate, shall we?
Yeah, yeah. Just to close off this
Yes.
little section here. No matter what, do not give up hope. If you learn anything from this here episode of the podcast, there have been a
Yeah,
thousand times, a million times in history where people have thought it's the end. Their civilization, their traditions, their people, their cultures, their homes burnt, destroyed. Every stone pulled out from underneath them, everything destroyed, all their families gone. But the world keeps on spinning. It doesn't stop for anyone, for anything. But if you want it to be better, you need to try and do something for that. You can't just sit on your hands and give up. And you think, oh, well, what am I going to do? Well, maybe you can do phone banking. Maybe you can do campaigning for a candidate you like. Maybe you can spend some of the time that you're on your phone looking at TikTok or whatever. You can look into, oh, what local candidates are, running in my area? Can I vote for this guy? If you're not yet old enough to vote, talk to your family about it. See if they could get introduced to these ideas. If you truly believe in them, at least try. Because the people who hate you, they are constantly trying. If you want to fight for abortion rights, the people who want to take them away, they are constantly fighting. They are every day talking to politicians, getting money from people, trying to push their agenda. And what are you doing? Don't give up. There's so much you can do if you just try.
Damn,
yeah,
bro.
and then
We're getting a
it,
good message
it
out of this.
doesn't, and it can, you can just start with something completely basic. If you feel like you're tired and you want to do nothing at all, just doing anything at all, like I say, walking your dog, or um, going for a little walk. That's
Yeah,
enough
just
to
baby
like
steps.
start off your day. Yeah, just think of it as every day you do a small step at a time. Don't think of it as a long staircase that you need to climb in one day. Think of it as a one step at a day. Then you start to feel more active, better, and then eventually you start to not want to give up anymore.
The thing is, this is
Yeah, you
applicable for
realize that
like
there are things
anything
worth
in
fighting
life.
for.
Yeah, but that's
But yeah,
how
even if you're
life.
someone who I
Yeah.
disagree with, this advice is still correct. I mean, this is like objectively true. This
Yeah.
isn't even like a any one side thing. I would like it if people who agree with me did this, but anyone can basically do this. And it doesn't have to be about, you know, changing the world or making things better. I mean, ideally, that's sort of the end goal for everything, but you can do it with small things, with your personal life, with with your relationships, friendly or otherwise. You can do it with schoolwork. You can do it with that project you've been putting off. Anything. This basic idea of just saying, you know what? Maybe I am just one person out of 8 billion or whatever. My work still matters. My input is still relevant. Not necessarily because it'll actually change anything, but because that attitude is something that everyone needs to have, and I need to do my part in keeping it up.
Yeah, I would agree.
Anyways,
This turned into
birth rates.
like a motivational podcast.
Yeah,
You know,
we're
one
gonna
of
be the
those
new Jordan Peterson.
you know those YouTube videos that are like 10 minutes long, saying
Yeah,
like
yeah,
10 minutes straight. That was just don't give up.
yeah.
What did that one guy say? Who's gonna push the boats?
The ball.
Or
Exactly.
something along
But
those lines. It's
um,
that one
the
guy.
um, okay, let's segue back into birth rates with Japan, a horror show.
Horror show, yeah.
Jesus
What
Christ,
what is the birth rate there?
it's like
Is it
bad.
not
It's
point
I'll
not
look
bad.
point
into it.
something?
Japan.
I'm betting not point six.
Um,
What are you betting, Nicholas?
We got
it
1.34.
says 1.34. Yeah, 1.34.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn. Okay,
It's
Hey,
and you
it's
think
still
pretty
it's not
bad.
lower
that
than the
bad?
US.
No,
Yeah,
it's not that bad, but the difference is
but there's a lot of people in the U.S.
Japan
Has a lot
has
of old people.
no immigration. That
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
goes to Japan. They are not only do they not really want people to go there because Japan is kind of really racist actually, um, but also people don't really immigrate to Japan. So while Japan's birth
They don't
rate is
want
like
people to immigrate there.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
double-edged sword here, and where
people
like you
do
say
want to.
okay,
Some people want to immigrate there. They think
weeb,
like sure. That I guess yeah. That would be also count as a immigration tactic.
yeah,
Yeah,
if we
but
check
they
Japan birth
refuse
rate
them. Those people.
and then we compare it to Japan population, and then you like look at the graph, you look at like the the decline,
Population
you
growth
can
rate.
see you
Negative
can see that they're on par with like
0.3%
Russia.
annual change.
They don't
Oh,
like it's nowhere near the like America because America's population like if you I'm just gonna open a second tab because it makes it
how much is
U.S.
it? Like 300 million,
population.
That's
400 million?
They have a
Like look
really
at it. It's a
high life
graph that goes
expectancy.
up.
What you're talking about?
The U.S. population it just goes up.
Yeah,
Like even if
U.S.
their
Yeah,
birth rate
population.
isn't that
It's
high,
slowing down.
yeah,
No, because they have
it's
like
immigration.
mostly
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's mostly because of immigration from
yeah,
like
look
other
like
countries.
I mean,
1940s, 1950s, it
technically,
just shoots up and it keeps
that's
on
how
going.
America was made, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
America
basically
was
British
made of a
British
bunch of
people
Europeans.
went there.
You know, it's not only
British people went
British.
there, said
It's not only
my
British
land.
though. It's also
Yeah, but
like
other people
Dutch.
came as well.
There's Spanish. There's French. There was
There's
no, not necessarily
everyone.
French, but it was just like a melting pot of like cultures and natives,
Yeah,
and yeah,
and
that's
Yeah,
that
well, we
eventually
know what
turned
happened to those
into
guys.
okay. Yeah, maybe
eventually
it
that
wasn't the
turned
best
into
way
its
to do it.
own culture.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's make it very clear. We
which
do
then is a
not
question of
condone
its
the
own.
methods of getting rid of the
It's
natives.
a
That
question
was
of
very
its own.
bad.
Can many different
Yeah, I do
cultures
not agree
actually live
with the
together?
removing of the Indians.
There's like
But yeah, we can like if we compare. Also, South Korea, I think, is in the same boat as Japan, where if we compare what's happening, it's like they're making all the mistakes that Western countries have made or do make, but then they're not fixing it with immigration. So
Yeah,
it's costing them population-wise a lot more.
and it's costing a lot of money to keep the old people functioning. I guess the elderly, because that takes up a lot of like the medical costs.
Oh yeah. It's
Yes, so
it's really bad.
it's an
a major
expense
percent
without
of
without a like a reimbursement.
a major part of the Japanese population is like old. They're
Elderly
all
Like
people,
old.
yeah,
over 60,
Yeah.
like a huge portion is like over 60. It's
Who's gonna
really
and they
pay
bad.
all
their
live in the
pension?
countryside.
Who is gonna pay their
Yeah, this
pension?
is the thing. This is the thing. Let's just go over something very simple. Um, retirement, like the whole like retirement pension thing, like people pay taxes and then it goes into pension funds and then like you get paid your pension when you're old, right? All of that.
Yeah,
It is like definitionally a Ponzi scheme, right? Like you put money in now that we give to the people who are now taking out the money, and then we're relying on like new people to come in to pay back your money. It's literally a Ponzi scheme.
It's
But the
like
thing is,
it's like bonds, like
yeah,
history bonds, but like a bit much worse.
yeah. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's like a pyramid scheme. However, the thing is, pyramid schemes work until you run out of people at the bottom to pay for those above them, right? And this is the problem. When your population starts to like have more and more of an elderly bent to it, it means
Yeah,
that there are fewer people at the bottom of your pyramid, and there are more people at the top. And that's when the pyramid scheme stops working, right? Is when they don't have enough new recruits anymore to give them money, so they can't
then
pay off the
becomes
old recruits.
a reverse pyramid. That's fact.
Yeah, and then we're screwed. So that is
Yeah.
the kind of the real danger. And I think that's the problem that Japan has. It's because they're A, not willing to accept immigration, and B, they're aging uh, pretty badly, and they age pretty well in the sense that they live long,
They
which
live so long, yeah.
yeah, it's and this is what again
Aren't
one of those things
Japanese
where
like the people that live the longest in
I
like
think
in
so,
the
yeah,
world?
oldest country
Oh,
on earth or whatever, but yeah,
yeah,
like they live very like their life expectancy is very long, which again is basically just a good thing, right? Like this is like almost
yeah.
an
It's a
objectively
good
good
thing
thing, but it becomes a problem when
when
the
there's too many.
system that you rely on
Yeah,
to take care of the old people relies on there being either a lot more young people or just a massive increase in productivity of those young people and a roughly similar amount in that case. But it's like the cost of keeping old people alive basically are growing faster than the Japanese youth's ability to pay for that. And that's where you
yeah.
get problems.
I feel like a lot of the world. Actually, no, not a lot of the world. Most countries that refuse immigration are gonna end up like Japan and Korea, just with their
Yeah.
population aging up, and then there's no, guess, young people to support the amount of pensions and hospital bills needed to pay for the elderly in those
But I
countries.
think
Well,
those two things are connected um,
there's another
because
thing to
in
think about.
Japan, a big issue. Well, yeah, yeah.
Where are those immigrants coming from? At some point, the birth rates in the places they're coming from are also going to drop. Once there's maybe stability in the countries that they come from, once these countries start developing, th- no, like less amount of wars in a few
Yeah.
examples, you want that's the problem. I don't know if immigration is like a long-term solution.
Well, no, but I think that
Be-
No, it's
countries
not
that are
long
against
term.
it
yeah,
will
I know, I agree,
suffer
but
anyways
I agree,
because
but
of no, like because of adjacent opinions. So, if you're anti-immigration, you're more likely than not to also be anti-worker. Even if like you
right.
say, "Oh, I love the working class," but usually you end up passing legislation that benefits corporations. You end up, or in cases where they are actually like giving benefits that help raising the population, there's still no point. First of all, there's still no reason to not do the immigration at the same time. But even beyond that, often that ends up being money that they can't afford to spend. That usually comes from other places. Like for example, Poland gets a huge amount of money from the EU. That then a lot of it goes into like encouraging families, giving like loans to new families and stuff at like very cheap rates to kind of up the fertility rate, which in sort of a vacuum, I guess it's fine, but they can't really afford that without EU help. But then it's the same governments that want to do that more and more are the ones who want to leave the EU, who want to, Poland go on its own, blah blah blah. And Japan is an example here. I think it's perfect for this because a huge part of Japan's low birth rate is an incredibly toxic social and like work
Work
culture.
environment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, work culture in Japan is so bad, and it's
Yeah.
especially tough for women because misogyny. Okay, just believe it or not, Japan is not exactly like a not unsexist, completely free society. Japan is actually pretty not good in a lot of
Pretty like
ways.
in some
Yeah,
aspects, yeah, it's not really good, and especially
and
work environment in Japan.
yeah,
Just like for anyone in general, work
Yeah, so absolutely, it's like if you're a
if you're
woman,
not like a CEO or like manager who's like reigning over like the working, like, I wouldn't say the working class because they're also the working class, but like
yeah, technically they're also workers, but yeah, like
lower, like
yeah, your
like
underlings.
the inferiors, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they yeah. If you're not one of those, it's pretty horrible because
yeah.
how long are the work days there?
It's well, the problem is that you're expected to work
Oh yeah, it's like
longer than your
overtime, right?
workday, but then it's like unpaid overtime, so it's
Yeah,
like
it's
really
unpaid
bad.
overtime
And also, then you're expected to go to like the karaoke with the boys and
with the
like
boys,
spend your
yeah,
whole night
and
there.
like drink
And
sake for like
yeah, yeah.
the whole night.
So it's like, at what point do you have time to have a family? When does that happen, you know? So I think that's also a huge issue, and I think that's part of a sort of conservative culture, right? Where
Yeah,
that's the same culture that leads to not wanting things like
yeah,
immigration, is the same culture that doesn't really allow enough freedom for its citizens in a social and cultural and even sort of legal sense to where they would actually be able to have kids. Because the Japanese government has been doing a lot of the same stuff that a lot of other governments have been doing, like giving cheap loans and trying to give
yeah,
lots of monetary benefits, but it hasn't really worked because you can't pay people more as the government for just having a kid than an employer is going to pay them for having a job, you know? And the thing is, if you're a woman in Japan, you cannot afford to like
to
have a
raise a
kid and
baby.
take that time off and then still keep like a sort of competitive career going. And
Yeah, it's
can the husband take care of you and the kid and with whatever like work you can get or do keep? It's
and
very difficult.
and also, I'm not know if this is true. I don't have any factual evidence. But I do believe that like the Japanese like work like kind of culture that the people are brought from. It's like a dishonor to like quit the jobs that they're like kind of doing a billion hours in overtime with. It's like a
Yeah,
dishonor
yeah.
to those people. There's like they're being disloyal to their coworkers by leaving them and looking for a better job. So they stay there and keep working until, well,
Oh yeah.
they do some crazy
Like
stuff.
I can't confirm whether or not that's true, but like
Yeah.
Japanese work culture is insanely toxic. So like I would believe it. Like if you told me that like in Japanese work culture actually they expect you to like sit down and let the boss stab you in the chest, I would believe you.
Oh
Like
my
I
god.
I yeah. I would believe it as well because
yeah, like it's really bad.
you're like supposed to just like accept like the manager or whatever, like the
Kind of
CEO man
reminds me of
screaming at
war
you and
tactics
like
a
arguing.
little.
With the what?
Their mindset when it comes to war as well. Or
Yeah, it's kind of like
used to.
Well,
Wait a minute.
used to, yeah.
yeah, let's just cover our ass.
1940s. I
Um,
don't know.
well, I
Rephrase the
think it's because
things.
it's all the same culture, it
Yeah.
all stems from the same sort
Yeah,
and I'm not saying like Japanese culture
It's
evil,
not a
Japanese
bad
culture
thing.
sucks or whatever. Like
it's
all
just
cultures
yeah,
are in
are
like some
different and
stage of
unique.
development, right? Like there's always things happening. Like you, w- well, okay, it's a slightly stupid phrase, but quote unquote European culture, um, used to, during the medieval times of practices that we would think are completely disgusting and barbaric, but that was the way it was, and then things developed and moved on. So like, no culture is stuck in the current moment. You can't say Japanese
Kill the
culture is this
witch.
or that. Yeah, yeah, but like things change, right? So maybe Japan will reform its culture. Maybe they will move to a more sort of liberal stance, understanding that you can't fix these issues with just like one-time benefits.
Yeah,
Maybe they won't. Who knows? And if they don't, then
only time will tell.
well, then there's going to be really cheap real estate in Japan in like 50 years. That's all I'm
And
going to
also
say.
very deep consequences.
Yeah.
Because who's gonna work in Japan anymore? Like so much of the population is already elderly, and then like not to sound overly rude or anything, but there's been quite a lot of suicides in Japan as well. So if there's
Yeah.
no more young people to work to support like the economy,
Even
and
without the suicides,
uh,
though.
with even without the
It's
suicides,
just
yeah,
Yeah,
that
but
they're
like this is
mass.
exactly another thing. it's another like aspect of Japanese culture. I'm not saying like suicide is Japanese culture, but it, things of that nature
Okay.
are relatively more common because of a lot of different cultural sort of
So,
factors.
Yeah, reasons.
according to Google,
Yeah,
like
Google, the good
Hmm.
old friend.
22,000
I
people
love
kill
Google.
themselves
How many?
Oh dear Lord,
in a year. 22,000.
How many?
22,000.
22,000.
Which is
God
about
damn.
Is that like
17.5 people per 100,000.
How many are men and how many are women?
I don't know. Let's see.
no, actually, probably for our debate or not debate, but conversation. More importantly, how many of us are young? Like, what
Yeah,
percentage of that is
that's more
old
important
people?
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
no. It rose 4.2%. It's mostly
Ugh,
men. It's mostly men.
Mostly men.
Yeah.
Yeah,
makes sense.
makes sense. Yeah.
I mean,
And
yeah,
the
this is
Another
actually
another another topic we could actually talk about is like the increase in like men suicide is increasing
surprisingly,
over the years.
most
But
well,
that's
we
a topic
covered
for
this
another day.
sort of.
this is very
Oh yeah, we kind
surprising.
of
Yeah,
did.
sorry,
Yeah.
you were saying.
Most suicides are 40 to 60-year-olds.
46-year-olds.
Oh,
Which is
interesting.
very
Really?
interesting.
Um,
It used to be more 30 to 39, 20 to 29, but
Ah.
it
And now
seems
it's
to have
mhm.
changed.
increased.
Well, the
Yeah.
people have,
maybe
well, not
maybe
to
that
sound overly
population.
rude
And if you're
or
talking
anything, but like the
about
people
if you're talking
may,
about young people, most of them are high schoolers, which makes sense to be honest.
oh. Cut that
Cut
out,
it,
cut
cut
that
it, cut it,
out.
cut it.
Cut it, cut
But
it,
yeah, I
cut
think you actually sort of hit on an interesting point there about not you, Victor, Ioannis,
it.
about like men's suicide rates being higher, and it's you, you, you know the whole like
Yeah, I brought that.
well, we sort of thought about this, but like the point that like um getting rid of quote the patriarchy unquote is a thing that is good not just for women but also for men because it's not like women aren't shamed or
Yeah,
chastised or
they definitely are.
maltreated in Japanese society. Absolutely are. In many ways, perhaps even worse than men. But it is a part of that sort of Japanese like bravado, machismo, like samurai sort of culture that like the man, you have brought shame to
To
yourself
our
or to your
country, or
family and
something, yeah.
all these things and you must kill yourself because of
Okay.
reasons you must Roblox yourself
And
um
you know what's
or
surprising?
or whatever.
Yes,
Suicide rates
yes.
have decreased.
In Japan?
Yes, in 2013 it
Well, no,
used to
I would
be a
imagine
lot more,
Yeah,
like
I would.
substantially more people than it is
lol.
now.
um
Like it was
I mean, I'm sure there's like mental health
21.4. It was 21.4 per
uh
100,000 inhabitants. Now it's
Oh
17.5.
damn!
There was like a dip and now it's
I would
growing again.
imagine
It's
that
probably
there's
because
been
of
like
the spread
mental
of
health
awareness
help.
in the internet,
Yeah.
right? Is mental health
Yeah, yeah,
more
but I think
available
that
therapy?
not only government like help, but also, as you pointed out, it's an older generation that are doing the suicides the most,
Yeah.
which I think might be a cultural thing, where I think that maybe these younger generations are less and less exposed to that type of expectation,
Yeah, that's
so they're
true.
less likely to go with that. Whereas the group of people who are 40 to 60, that would
They
be
still have
people
the
who
same
were
mentality.
born in the 80s to like the 60s.
So they have
So
this
those
like
are people who would have grown with an older Japanese culture, a more sort of, you dishonor our family, kill yourself, actually, so that might have been more
Yeah.
common. And I
you
think that
must
nowadays
do the
maybe
oof.
fewer youth, yeah, fewer youths are sort of exposed to that as a serious social pressure. So that might kind of affect. Also, I don't know, anime.
Yeah. What about it?
Anime. What about
Explain.
anime?
Um, Actually, you know what? No, I'll make a point about anime right now.
Okay.
I've always found it really weird, but then I sort of like kind of understood why. That like 90% of anime is like some high school stuff. It's like always like high school kids or like school kids like doing things, and it's actually because basically in Japan, once you like get out of school and like your work life begins, your life ends. Like you have no more freedom, you have no more happiness. You are now a cog in the
Okay.
machine, and
Relax
you
a
will
bit.
suck balls.
I mean, it depends what job you have, what profession you were able to achieve during your like study time. Because of course, like oh, what
Oh,
happened?
Sorry, you were saying?
Me?
what
Yeah,
were
you were saying
you were
something
talking about
about
anime, Nicholas. You were talking
people,
about
Yeah, we're
how
people,
talking about
something
anime.
job.
professions.
You said
Oh,
something about how people job something.
I don't
Well, it
remember
depends on the
job.
What
profession.
jobs?
Depending on their professions. Like,
Yes, yeah.
of course, if they're like I don't know what job would be a like kind of factory style job, like an IT, I guess. It's like
Mm.
always in the office. Then I guess yeah, I understand your point. Depending on the profession, like
Like there's just not that much free time in the way like
yeah, that's
in
true.
in the West, like we would think about it. Like you don't get like your 5 hours at home before you like start thinking of going to bed. You get a couple hours if you're lucky,
And if you don't get overtime, yeah, I get what you mean.
Right.
which is really sad.
It
Feel
is.
bad, man. Um, yeah, good. That I don't know. Thoughts and prayers to Japanese people, man. Get it's sad, man. There's
Yeah.
so many sad things right now. This video is being recorded on
Calm.
the
This
27th
turned
of
again.
October,
We went. This
2023.
is a very weird podcast. It's like
Yeah, it is.
motivational. No, it started sad and then a
Motivational
little bit.
and
Then it
then
got
sad.
motivational and now it's sad again.
Mhm.
What are you doing, Nicholas?
Things
Nicholas, you're
are things
bringing
are sad.
the
Things I don't want to
Motivational.
talk about things because I'm sure that people won't like it and will get called out for the bad stuff. I don't want to talk about the things that are happening in the Holy Land. I don't want to get into
There's
that.
no need.
Yeah,
There's
but
no
like
need.
things suck, world sucks, everything sucks, and it's gonna always
We
suck.
were just you
Don't
were
get
just on
me
the rant.
wrong.
Don't give up.
No, no, no. Let me make this very clear. That doesn't mean that you're allowed to give up. Everything has always sucked. Everything will always suck. Our
But
job
this
is
is
to make
a
it suck less.
better suck than before.
Yeah, yeah. This
Yeah,
sucking
whoa.
was worse before,
Whoa,
and
you're
then
the
gotten
worst
better.
about it.
Okay.
But yeah, all things will always be bad, and we just need to make them less bad. That's our job.
Hey, I say be. This might sound rude, but like for me at least, I always like to think optimistic. Like
How is that
sure,
rude?
stuff that I don't know. Some people might get offended.
You've really
That
offended me by this,
that some people might think, how dare you be optimistic?
you jerk.
But I think if you have a lighter, like think of it as the cup is 50% full instead of fifty
Well,
percent
well, okay,
empty.
let's put it this way. What I mean by everything sucks is that like people think because when people hear things like oh don't give up fight then they do it for a while and then the world didn't magically change to become better like we saw this with Bernie Sanders actually like he made this whole huge movement he spread information on things like Medicare for all in America and then he didn't win the nomination either time because of reasons that we don't won't get into because I'll be here for hours and then people kind of like lost that energy and they were like oh things suck again and they went back to it. Losing is the thing that you're going to be doing for hundreds of years before you win. Millions of people died fighting for the freedoms that we have. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of protesters, of unionists fought for things like the weekend. They had their limbs snapped off, their ribs broken, they were killed, they were murdered. But then one day, they did indeed win. And that's kind of my point is that don't go into kind of being jolly and doing things with the expectation that you're going to be able to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, you probably won't. If you plant that tree, you probably won't be able to sit in its shade, It's things take a long time. Changing societies, making things
I
better,
was about to
it
say
doesn't
we got
happen
back to
just like that.
motivational, but you made it sad at the end again. Like,
No,
Ain't
this is
that
very
sad?
simple.
no,
We
not
need
sad,
to
but like,
suffer,
okay,
and we will suffer. But if we suffer for the right reasons, then the next generation, or maybe their grandkids,
we'll
they
suffer.
might suffer a little less.
Yeah, Nicholas is obviously looking into like a more long term causes, I guess, longer than a lifetime, you might
Oh
say.
yeah, lots,
Yeah,
lots
That's the
but
longer.
thing, though.
of course you're
I
gonna
feel like
enjoy
a
like
lot of
fruits
people
of it.
don't
Oh,
care.
go ahead.
Like,
Might not care
they
about
don't
what.
care about future generations. They care about their lives.
Um,
Yeah, there's
I think
very individualism nowadays.
I think that honestly, okay,
Individualistic.
okay. I'm gonna do the like appeal to these people, but I'm gonna say that they disgust me. Okay,
We've
okay.
derived very much so from birth rates, by
Yes,
the way,
we
but
have.
it's fine. Let's continue.
But let's just finish this because now we're into it. I've said a statement. Now I need to back it up. Okay, I'm gonna make the like emotional, logical appeal to these people who don't care. They just care about their own life. Okay, let's start with some basics. So there are a few things we need to get over. First of all, the power of the human mind and the power of people as a group. A very common thing that people will say is, "Why should I vote? It doesn't matter. My vote won't change things." And in most elections, that is true, right? Very few elections nowadays come down to one vote. However, that attitude, especially if it spreads within whatever your group is, whatever kind of voting bloc you predominantly belong into, then it will have an effect. So whenever you think in that way, technically you're right. Whenever you think, oh, my whatever this or that won't have an effect on the world, me recycling won't really change anything. Sure, you're sort of right, I guess, but you're also participating in the spreading of that thought. You're doing your bit in not doing anything, and as long as enough people do that, you're going to end up in a world where nothing really has changed, and it's not because you didn't affect anything, it's because you believed that you couldn't. And I think this is a very important thing. But now we get to the main point here. So the question would be, why should I care about future generations? Why should I care about any of this, right? Why do I care actually
Why
that there
should
are,
I?
children dying and getting shot in the head and their skulls are being splattered across some walls in a country I don't live in, right? Why
Yeah.
do I care about this? Okay. I'm like it's like having to explain being human. Okay.
By the way,
So
we're at like
Yeah,
53-minute mark.
that's fine.
So
Continue.
if
people
yeah,
like a
continue,
long
continue.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can end it with this rant if you want, but like
Sure.
either way.
I say we have a little conclusion after this.
So
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we can have a little conclusion about things.
yeah,
But yeah, so
go ahead.
people okay. Trying to appeal to nihilists. I don't believe that there are actually that many nihilists in the world. I think that most people like to pretend that they don't care about things because it's cool or whatever, but then they sort of realize that they do. But okay. Look around the world. See the things that man has made. Go walk like you don't need to actually be there. I say go, but you can like look at pictures from Google or whatever you want to do. The cities of today, wonders of the world, and see what people have managed to do, and see how we still get to sort of live with these beautiful achievements. For many people, I think that's already enough. I feel, at least for me, I always get that feeling of like maybe there'll be something I'll contribute to that'll be here 1,000 years later, and people will still look at it and still see beauty and
Hey,
and and
prolonged
meaning.
fast podcast.
Yeah, prolonged fast. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful podcast 1,000 years from now. There'll be like internet historians, not the YouTube channel internet, but like actual internet historians.
They'll be
Thousands of
talking
years
about you,
from now.
Nicholas.
Yeah, yeah. There'll be like half crackly broken recordings that they found in some like USB thumb drive or something, and it'll be just all the different prolonged fast podcast episodes, and that'll be like their only like relation to like 2000 21st century culture, and they'll be like, damn, this time was weird. But okay,
Yeah.
anyways, um, so I think that's already sort of a thing for me. It's just like understanding the majesty of it all, our place in this time, and the fact that we can maybe do something. But again, you can say, okay, well, why do I care about doing something? Okay, it again comes down to not personal effects, but to wider beliefs. Your life, even if you're a complete hedonist, if you only care about, your worldly pleasure, your life would be better if other people were better off. This is true domestically and globally. The more people you have in a country that are sort of middle class, right? Doing fine, getting a by, and they have a bit of money in the bank, the better economies do, the better businesses do, the better people do. This is basically like economic orthodoxy. I'm not even going to have to defend this one. If you, I don't know, disagree with me, go look up Franklin Delano Roosevelt and like the New Deal. I'm not doing that for you. You can spoon feed yourself basic econ 101. Um, but so this is already like a basic selfish argument. This is actually, if you want to see a very good, not tired, not through a poor mic version of this, go watch the Kurt Kazakh video on egoistic
Not
altruism.
sponsored.
It'll
Not sponsored.
basically give you this
Not
argument.
sponsored by
Not
Bill Gates.
sponsored, not sponsored.
Not
Do not.
sponsored.
We are not sponsored by the billionaires, okay?
We just like them.
We are poor. We are very poor. Please sponsor us, Bill Gates. Um, um,
Eh,
but yeah. So that's one view. But then also there has to be a sort of idea of like, do you really want to tell me beyond all the irony and all the sort of like I'm a real tough guy, when you look at some monument to human triumph, when you see the Statue of Liberty, when you see uh, I'm trying to think of like landmarks that aren't controversial but also
nah,
are like
keep
beautiful and good. Um,
keep cooking, keep
let's
cooking.
see. When you see something like the Brandenburg Gates, when you see the Eiffel Tower, when you see that cathedral they're still like building in Barcelona or whatever, um, tell me that a
Burj
part of you
Khalifa,
doesn't think, no, we don't count that one. Um, tell me that a
big,
part of you
tall.
doesn't think I'm proud to be human. The fact that we made
Yeah.
this is beautiful.
Well,
The fact
personally,
that this
I didn't
exists.
make it, but like the species,
Well,
yeah,
like
I guess so.
we as a species, that we are capable of this, that we could do these things. If that doesn't move you in any way, if you don't feel anything, if you look at that, and not just that, but then also the things that we've built as structures that aren't physical, our liberties, our freedoms, and obviously they're not absolute. I mean, in some sense they really shouldn't be because absolute freedoms mean no freedom. But what we can talk about that some other time. But
Too
basically,
many topics to talk about.
the whole idea of like the whole idea of like you have the freedom to move your body wherever you want except into my face because that like your freedom ends there because now you're encroaching on another person's freedom. That's what I mean. But
Yeah, yeah.
still they don't reach everyone. Not all these freedoms and liberties reach everyone. Not all these rights are reached by everyone, and that's sad and that's unfortunate, but that's part of building these structures is to make sure that they do that. And all these things that we have as a human species created, preserved, protected for centuries, for millennia,
Think for
concepts
millennia. Yeah.
like democracy, the ideas of rights, of freedoms, to me, they are beautiful and they are worth preserving and protecting because whether or not you want there to be, whether or not you participate in the being of, there will be a next generation after us. And they will be the ones taking care of us. So if you want to live in a better world when you're old and feeble, if you want to die knowing that you did your part to make this world a better place, then I don't think there's space for this sort of hedonistic and this like nihilistic idea of, well, why should I care? Okay, let's put it this way. People who think that way, well, why should I care about other people? Why should I, give my time and effort to these other people that might not even exist, that might or might not exist in the future? Either they don't get remembered by history, or they are remembered as the problem. So when the dust settles, which side do you want to be on? The one that kept pushing the light of civilization, the torch of mankind forward, or the people who were pulling it, not because they really had any reason to, but just because they couldn't be bothered to stop holding onto the rope.
Obviously, I want to be the on the side of the people that got frozen in the freeze machines, and then million
What
the
the
freeze
fuck?
machines. Then I time travel into the future, and then I get
What?
saved by some miracle juice.
Obviously, yeah, ideally we all live forever. That would be nice, but unfortunately, it's not the world we live in. Not yet.
The miracle juice.
The miracle juice.
Okay, maybe
You
one
had
more personal appeal.
you had like a really good start to a conclusion there, but then you like changed it completely to another topic. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, but just let me just
Keep
make a
going, keep going, keep going.
ending personal appeal here. If you're a person who has lost a family member, lost a friend, lost a loved one of some other sort, uh, to whatever, gunshots, cancer, COVID, or whatever things kill people, right? Um, big car. Um,
Big.
Big
Not
car,
big.
not small
Not
car.
yeah.
big.
Well, no, specifically big cars, because small cars you roll over them because the front is like at your knees or ankle, or well, not ankles, but like around your knees somewhere.
Because I'm
But if the
gonna drive
car
a
is
small
tall,
car over you and see if you live.
no, no, this is my point. You won't drive a small car over me because I will go over the small car.
Yeah.
But if the car
Well,
is big,
you're
it'll
still
push
Not
me
hit
if I'm
by a
down,
moving at
car.
and then I'll drive over it.
You're
not if I'm
still
moving
hit
at
by a
70
car
kilometers
though.
per hour.
Still, if you're
No, no,
moving
Victor, it
slow,
doesn't matter. It's
you'll
a
move
geometry
you'll
thing.
like hit the
Yeah,
windshield
I'll
of the
fall
car.
forward. Yeah, I'll fall forward. But if it's a really big car where the bumper is like in my face, then it'll push me backwards,
Under
and
the
then it'll
car.
drive over me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Just,
difference.
just,
You
just
still
jump
die
over it,
though.
dog.
Yeah,
Just jump over it.
probably. Yeah.
Just
Uh,
jump. It's
just
very
jump over
wide,
it. Yeah.
not
Okay,
tall.
but I was making a point, I think.
You were.
You were
Let's see.
making a
Where were
point.
we? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you
If you've
die, I don't
lost
know if you lost
loved ones, family members, uh, people close to you, to almost anything,
Yeah.
do you want other people to go through whatever pain you suffered? Because a lot of these people are hurt by the world, and they're bitter and they're angry, and they feel like they weren't seen, they weren't heard, and that their strife and their struggles go unlistened to. And well, not to be too cheesy about it, but be the change you want to see in the world. If it really hurt you, if
Yeah.
it really put you on the edge when that family member died, and you couldn't understand how it's not fair, just because you didn't have money, you couldn't get the right treatment. Just because they didn't have enough money, they had to ration their medicine and end up killing them, or just because some person really wanted to do drunk driving, they had to end up killing that person that you cared about so much, and your life has been ruined by this moment. You're not alone, but you're also not special. Millions of people go through that. The question is, do you want to condemn millions more to that? Just because you're not willing to do anything about it, just because you want to give up, just because when it gets tough, you want to throw the towel? I
Yeah.
don't think you do. So don't give up on things just because it hurts, just because it feels unfair. Yes, the world is unfair, but that shouldn't be a reason to give up or to accept the unfairness. That should be a reason to fight against it. If you've suffered at the hand of that unfairness, then surely you, better than anyone, knows that it's horrifying. It's soul crushing. But
Yeah,
that's
that's true.
not why you give up. That's why you keep on fighting. And that is my appeal to those people who genuinely say things like, well, why should I care about the next generation? Why should I care about even people now, currently, who live, within my generation or who are older than me? Because someone has to. And why shouldn't it be you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good argument.
Well,
People
that
that think
was
that way.
actually a decent conclusion.
A decent
It's not a
conclusion.
conclusion about birth rates. Like
Yeah,
the
it's not a
point.
conclusion about
No,
birth rate.
no, not
It
really.
was a very, it was a very opinionated conclusion. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No. I think
So I think we
maybe
like talked
I'll
about everything we've talked about
let's
now.
give let's give a little conclusion to like
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
the
maybe we
things
can
we
all
talked
go
about.
over like what we think about like birth rates, how much is the problem, and what can be done to solve it. Like, I can not speak and I can drink some water for a while. Like,
You've
Ioannis, you
spoken
can
for a
start
while.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been
So
speaking about not giving up for 10
we
years.
talked about birth rates, right? And
Sure
I
did.
think we all agreed on that it's not the most pressing matter right now.
No, there's
There's a
definitely
lot
more
of other
pressing
things that, yeah. Um, I mean, in the future, and in the future, we said that this wouldn't become like a big problem, right? We said that it will balance
matters.
out. Of course, we're not like scientists. We're not
We know
professionals in
all
this
the
field.
factual
We
evidence.
believe.
We
This is,
think.
yeah, well, this is our
We
opinion
guess.
based on what we've read, what we've seen. Um, but yeah, I don't. We pretty
Very
much
unprofessional opinion,
concluded that there
remind you.
isn't much of a worry right now with birth rates.
Yeah.
And although countries maybe should do so a few things to increase birth rates, I think they might want to focus on other matters first. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I would agree with Ioannis that
what do you
it's not the most pressing matter in the world. Like, of course, there's more shit that's definitely more
think?
deadly to our humankind in a way, like climate change, for example. But I do believe it's a problem that exists in the world that should be strive for a solution, because even if it's not a big problem, it still causes many individual problems to, like, sure, we can look at a world scale. It's not a big issue, but if we like zoom in more, like to countries, to families, for small, for like more zoomed in, basically, it's still an issue that occurs in people's lives. That, like, oh, this elderly person doesn't have any pension left and doesn't have any money pension to, like, left, because there's not enough young people to give money, or to not, like, for the taxes or something along those lines. There's not enough money for the hospital bills for young people and stuff like that. And there might not be enough young people in societies like um in, like, Japan, for example, or Korea, like we've mentioned before. Like, they've closed immigration, not closed, but like they usually refuse immigration. Um,
Yeah.
in that way, it would kind of slow down the country in general. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, that's kind
Okay.
of what I think as well. It's an issue, not a big issue globally, but it's a issue that should be kind of try to solve slowly, in a way. If faster the better, but like,
I completely agree. But like,
can try.
there's a lot of people who are like over exaggerating it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole internet, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's like
Mostly
anything
racist.
that's
exaggerate everything.
anything that exists in the world, it goes to extreme,
Like,
like, lengths. Even
oh my
even
god, we're
if
all gonna
the
die.
people the people who, like,
Yeah.
like, reviewed it and stuff like that, who, like, first talked about it, didn't say any extreme lengths, then it gets passed along, and that person increases it a little bit more to make it more interesting.
Welcome to the
And
internet.
the person who gets
Yeah.
that message, the more interesting one, it makes it more even more interesting. Then it goes on
Dude,
and on.
a
It's an
big
infinite
part of the
cycle of
like
just trying to get more
a big part
attention.
of it is just like racist though. Like it's just because like a lot of the population decline is happening in Europe and the US, or like at least seemingly it's happening, right? Like that's where a lot of attention is paid to in like the West, quote unquote, and that is where white people live. So a lot of racist people, like members of the KKK, um, don't like the idea that the missing kind of I guess white growth is being replaced by immigrants who are coming from places in other parts of the world because I don't know, their skin is not the right shade, whatever it is. People are dumb. But yeah, that's a big part of like sort of the manufactured like outrage about it is like, oh well, it's not actually that they care about the population itself, it's more that like the type of people that we have is changing because the correct people aren't having enough kids, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Is that pretty much what we talked about?
That's
We also talked about the Nicola stuff. About
Yeah, Nicholas,
motivation, about why
big,
you should
big.
not give up,
We should
why.
put Nicholas on a poster that says "Don't
Yeah.
give up," like Uncle
Yeah.
Sam, and,
Never
like,
give
Yeah.
up.
pointing at you.
Yeah.
Life
Never
sucks,
give
but
up.
that's no reason to complain about it. Get back up.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Nicholas would say,
You get it?
skill
Also,
issue.
like,
skill issue.
if you made it even more extreme, to me it would feel more like Andrew Tate-ish in a way, like his kind of comments. In a way, if you took your comment to like the extreme. Why is everybody
Yeah.
silent? I feel like I'm saying something stupid here.
No, no, no.
I
It's
get
just
what
like,
you mean. I just well, I
but
It's about different topics.
like,
It's a
um,
similar
if
tone.
anything's pushed to the extreme, then it looks bad.
It's a similar
yeah,
tone.
like I just think that there's a problem with
Yeah,
people
no,
about
I
kind of like
agree.
flash in the pan hope, where they're like,
I
oh,
totally get
cool
that.
things are happening, boom, and then it doesn't happen, and then they're like, oh well,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
someone needs to tell them the hard fact. The facts don't care about your goddamn feelings, okay? You will suffer and then you will die. Um, but yeah, on the birthright thing, I think that basically a nation that is like economically developed and has high birth rate that isn't like legally enforced is a happy and healthier nation. So like even if you don't care about the birth rates, it's still worth doing these things, like bettering women's position in the workplace so that they can have, more like maternity leave, helping fathers get into that role in parenting so that families can be more sort of like two actual parents, not just a parent and the guy who comes in and out like, 9 and 5 and like has all the money.
Yeah.
I think that
Uh,
those kinds of things help everyone, not just sort of whoever is concerned about birth rates. That just makes the country a better place to live in generally.
and to increase the point I made previously, I think I was going on a rant and I didn't have a final point to add to it. So now I do. I feel like those people that like have so much work as always to like repay the elderly, they should be given more time to like be able to make a family, like Nicholas was saying a few
Yeah.
seconds ago. And Nicholas said before as well that you can't really pay people more for having a child than actually working in a salary job. But what I'm trying to say is that they should find some type of equilibrium or type of compensation. Like Finland has the baby boxes. I feel like that
Yeah.
should be like everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
thing that's to accommodate
Here's the
any
Hmm.
thing though, not every
family.
you can't really
Yeah,
do that everywhere.
Not all
yeah, you can't
countries
do
are
that.
best country. Um,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
like
I
what I guess France does with the nurse, but
France?
like
yeah, France does like
That's a
a
very
lot of like
interesting
good
approach.
stuff.
yeah, it's an interesting
It's
approach.
A personal nurse.
I feel like it'll be
the
more
idea
useful
is to like kind of
back in the
guide
day.
mothers.
I
Um,
feel like the personal
well, I
nurse
mean, still
approach is a bit
obviously works.
extreme.
Whatever France is
Yeah,
doing works.
it
But
works. Yeah,
like,
but I feel like that was more useful back when the internet wasn't so much around because it's so easy to
but
like
I mean,
research a subject.
Hmm.
even then, it's like there is a lot of sort of hands-on experience and like
Yeah,
things
of
that you kind
course,
of
of
don't
course. You
know.
need to do it
And
yourself.
I think that putting a human face on it, even if it doesn't actually change what the parent learns, makes it more comfortable because they know that there's someone there to help them. So I think that's handy. But
Yeah,
either way, whatever France does seems to work.
Hmm.
I don't whatever combination of
How
multiple mistresses
sustainable it is
and
when you have a
wine,
bigger population.
whatever. Well, I don't think it's really an issue of sustainability in and of itself. I think most
Yeah, sure.
societies can handle the extra, paying of some nurses to, because I assume that like the nurse doesn't have only one
Yeah.
family, they'll have multiple families,
yeah,
Yeah.
that they handle.
Yeah.
But still, like, just a couple, some extra nurses. But then like the effects of that are massive because I mean, where that is expensive, I think it's sustainable if it actually helps achieve the goal. Whereas not having people is not sustainable, actually. That's bad.
yeah. That's pretty
So
bad.
like in that sense, like there are very few things that would cost more than having a declining population.
Yeah, that's true. Because if there's no young people, no,
Yeah.
no economic growth can be had.
Yeah,
But
no
yeah,
economy.
I think that's
Yeah,
a
I think that
pretty good
yeah,
Yeah,
point.
I think
kind
that's
of
a
a wrap,
good
yeah.
place to end off. Any final notes that are less than like
And
10 minutes long?
yeah, I feel like just some countries do do birth rates better than some.
Do birthdays
Uh,
better?
they do
This
birthdays.
is
Yeah, I said it anyways. I realized it was wrong halfway through, but I said it anyways.
you
They
can
do birth
tell that
rates.
it's late.
Um, yeah, but yeah, basically, it's some countries
This is
kind of have a higher
the
birth
quality
rate.
content that you come here for.
And some countries struggle a bit more with it, and that's the end subject.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next
Um,
time we'll be having some guests on, but
Some
Ooh,
special
this has been
special
yeah,
guest.
special guests, two special guests.
Two special
Um,
guests.
but yeah, this has been a great little rambling
Hopefully,
diatribe.
Little.
Gone on
yeah,
different.
Not that little.
little. It's a bit longer than the first episode.
It's about
Yeah.
almost half an hour longer, but like
Oh Lord.
Shit.
we're at 1 hour 10.
Hopefully this video will release on like maybe the 30th, or
Oh damn, on the
29th
30th.
to the 29th to the third, to the first should be when
Okay.
this
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
releases.
So this is like
So
3 days, 4 days before us. So
Yeah, so you're basically seeing past us right now.
okay, I think
yeah.
that's just how
Let
YouTube works. I don't think we have to explain
Yeah, that is yeah, we don't need to explain.
Yeah, that's
Ladies
how
and
YouTube works.
gentlemen, and all those who are not categorized with either, thank you for sitting through this horrible
Yes.
little rant-filled three guys who
Opinionated
really want to
as
pass
well.
out and sleep
this.
Yes.
podcast
No, no, no.
This has been Victor, Nicholas, and
Yeah.
Giannis.
on the Prolonged Fast
Last
podcast.
podcast.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you
See
for
you on the
watching.
next
See
episode.
ya.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.